I like to think you are the hero of your story. And so in every epic story, there's always got to be this trying moment for the hero to really get into it and then come out on the other side.
Hey, it's Julie. Welcome to Uncomfy. A lot of us are struggling right now with how to stay open to others when we seem to be living in different realities. I feel like I'm always walking on eggshells with people, but I also don't want to give up on connection. This is a podcast about staying with the moments we usually want to escape, the awkward ones, the tense ones, the ones that can actually teach us something. So let's get uncomfy.
I was feeling utter devastation. I felt empty. I felt at such a huge loss, like something that I had was just ripped away in a moment.
Friends, I want you to meet Elizabeth Gruebel. She is a marriage and family therapist. She's a professor of human development and family science at the University of Rhode Island. She has a story to share with us today. Elizabeth, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Feeling like something has been ripped away from you. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Anyone who's ever grieved can relate to that feeling. Yeah. Let's talk about what was going on for you in that moment. Take us back.
Yeah, of course. So I had just walked into my apartment, and to take you back, I was just fresh out of grad school. I had my own place. I was living, in the city. I was feeling great. It was wonderful. And as I was walking into my apartment, I had very quickly realized that I had been robbed, that everything was just in chaos. Like there was just stuff everywhere. I didn't know where my dog was, like the panic of even that. I'd walked into this moment in time where everything just 30 seconds before was great. It was fine. And when I walked in, everything had changed. And so I really quickly realized that this critically important thing to me had been stolen. And the thing that was stolen was my father's Bronze Star, which, if you're not familiar, is a really important service medal for military. And I had this really deep, deep connection to this star. It was this thing that had connected me to my father for my whole life because he had passed away when I was so young. And losing it was just absolutely devastating. I mean, everything else in the apartment could go. Everything could be gone. It'd be fine. But this one thing was this connection I had to my father that was so important and so critical. And suddenly it was out of my life.
And completely irreplaceable. No other Bronze Star would replace that, right? There's
never.
One in the world. Mm-hmm. Did you ever get it back?
I never did. No. And it was... I love that you said that, like it's irreplaceable because in a way, yeah, sure. Like you could maybe order some new ones, but there was only one he ever held. There was only one that he had worn that was important to him. So yeah, no, I never was able to get it back, never able to recover it. So gone forever. Yeah.
This really is a conversation and a story about your connection to your father, most of all. So you've given a beautiful TED Talk many years ago where you talk about your dad and your connection to him. He died when you were very young. Tell us a little bit about how that's affected you in your life and how you've coped with that.
Yeah, sure. So my father passed away when I was 2, very aggressive, quick form of cancer. And I'm the youngest in my family. I have a lot of siblings. And so as I was growing up, I always just was so jealous, honestly, that they had this relationship to him and that everybody kind of knew him, that he was, this bigger than life person. All the stories about him were always so amazing. He was just so kind. He was compassionate. He was funny. He played pranks on us. Like he was just a really overall wonderful person. And as I was growing up, those are the stories that formed my schema of him, my understanding of who he was and, what made him so special. And so I always felt like I wanted more of that connection to him. I think as a lot of children who lose a parent do, they want to see themselves in that parent who they don't really know. And it wasn't until I was 10 years old. And I happened to I actually have it. I was walking around my basement and I was rummaging through and I came across this if you were 10, imagine finding this.
Oh, it looks like a pirate's, there's going to be gold pouring out of this trunk. Yes.
And that's what I expected. I expected gold. But what I found were all the service medals, and all of these documents about, all the things he had done. And these love letters he wrote to my mom when he was dying, like just this, it was a true treasure trove. And I zeroed in on the Bronze Star. And that Bronze Star became this thing that connected me to, oh my God, my dad once held this. This was something that was so important to him. And really, that became my connection to him. And as I was growing up, I always would reach for it. It would be the thing like if I had a fight with a friend, or, my mom and I weren't getting along because I was an angsty teenager, or I, was going on a job interview or preparing for grad school. Like it was with me all the time. So it became this like tangible thing I never quite had with my father, but I actually had something now. And that
Did you
was the
carry it
meaning of the
with you?
hem.
Was it like in your backpack when you went to school as a kid? Oh,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
Elizabeth, that's so sweet and heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And it that's so interesting that you had this like I mean, I get it. It makes perfect sense. Like this tangible thing. Like he held
Hmm.
it. You don't remember him really in the vaguest of
Hmm.
ways, but
Yeah.
sort of connecting you to the tangible world. And it helped you feel connected to him. Did it bring you, what else did it bring you in terms of, I don't know, like, was it a method of coping for you? Was it a way of sort of finding, I don't know, is it like
Yeah.
it was like your comfort, I don't know, teddy bear that sort of calmed you down?
All of the things, I think. It was that, but it was also something a little bit more. And it was like, what do you do in the hard moments? What do you do, and how do you compose yourself when things are really hard and tricky? And I always imagined, whether this is true or not, I always imagined that my dad would have been really good at that, like good under pressure. That he had so much integrity, and I would almost imagine when I held the star that he was giving me that advice, like, okay, what are you going to do now? Like, what's the kindest thing? What's the thing that has the most integrity? What's the thing that's the right thing to do? And it was almost like it helped, kind of not raise me, but it was something that made me think about, how do I want to be? How do I want to exist in this world? How do I want to treat others? How do I want to be present with people? And it would almost be that pause before I acted. And so it had that, that double kind of meaning for me.
So then I guess fast forward to you're out of grad school, you've got your own
Mm.
apartment, you've got your dog, and I guess at this point did you have it on display in your house?
Yeah, I had it I had a little IKEA bookshelf. I was right out of grad school, and I had all the medals up. And yeah, it was such a huge part of my home, my life. And even still, I would grab it sometimes if I needed it, and I'd take it to work if I knew I was going to have a rough day, or, you know, but yeah.
So then it's gone, and what do you do with that?
Yeah. Well, first I grieved. I mean, and I think that's okay. I found myself sitting on my bed and just so upset, and which is not unlike many times that I would hold that star, that I had it upset in my bed and just, what do I do right now? And that same kind of script happened where I said, what would my father say right now? Like what would he say, or what would he advise, or what would make him proud? And I just kind of sat with that question, and I thought, well, I think that it would make him proud, me, just me. Just who I am and what I'm doing right now. At the time I was working in community mental health. I was working with children that experienced extraordinary trauma. And I thought, I bet he'd be really proud of that. I bet he'd be happy that I was doing this kind of work. And little by little, those kinds of thoughts crept in of, I'm still me. I still live by those values that I think he and I shared. I just don't have that tangible star right now. But it doesn't change that his lessons, or what I assume would be his lessons, still live within me.
So were you able to find, I guess, like a psychological replacement for what the star had done for you then? I mean, you didn't have the star, but you still did all the other stuff, or you were able to kind of trigger that in yourself?
Yeah, yeah. And so in my TED talk, I talk a little very briefly about this. There's this theory, it's called narrative theory in
Yeah.
counseling. And I love it. I love it so much. And it's essentially, asking basically the client, but a set of questions around, what is this teaching you? And what do you want your story to be? What do you want it to look like? And I think that was a psychological switch for me, is, what do I want my story to be? Do I want it to be that, I've lost this, so therefore I've lost this big part of my identity and I'll never go back? No, of course I don't want that. I want to take it forward still, even though this thing has such a great meaning to me. It doesn't have to be attached to the thing itself.
Tell us a little more about the narrative storying, or the, I don't know, the retraining of, or reshaping of the story, right? It sounds like that's something that you do with your
Yeah.
clients. What are kind of some of the more common stories that need to be re-narrated that you find in your therapy?
So most people have a story that's helpful to re-narrate, and we call it restorying. As a family therapist, so many of our stories start in childhood and so forth. And we sometimes get stuck in the story that I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I can't be loved, I won't be loved. Or we experience something traumatic or really difficult, and it becomes, oh, I am this damaged person, or I had, I'll always have this. But for all of history, we've always told stories where there's a hero, right? And so for clients, I like to think you are the hero of your story. And so in every epic story, there's always got to be this trying moment for the hero to really like get into it and then come out on the other side, and see themselves from a different viewpoint. But you got to go through the hard stuff first before you can be the hero. And so in counseling, that's kind of the idea, is that you've been through some hard stuff. Maybe you've had this traumatic experience or this huge loss or something that happened, but how will we make you the hero of the story? How will we get you forward and think, what did I learn from that? What can I take away from that? To kind of help us move forward in a more positive way.
What strikes me there is the questions are about like that it sounds like the focus is how can you change your role in the story as opposed to changing other people's roles. I guess it feels to me like the risk is that you all of a sudden like create new villains in order to like in your story, right? I mean, I've had this experience where there's sort of this story I've told myself about, my parent or whatever in childhood. And then someone's like, wow, it sounds like they were terrible, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe she was the villain in that story, right? And then all of a sudden, which isn't necessarily helpful either, but it's definitely a restorying. So how do you keep yourself in a frame that is restoring productively as opposed to just creating more villains and victims in the challenging
Yeah.
stories of your life?
Oh my gosh, what a wonderful question. I think it comes down to, we can only be responsible for our own thoughts and words and actions, right? We are truly responsible for ourselves. And all of the events that happen in our life, of course, we don't have control over those, but we do have control over ourselves. And I think that even like, just to bring it right back to, this event, the robbery, for example, like I could say, I'm so angry at that person who broke into my house. And I'm so angry that they did this and they took something so important to me. How could they? I could do that. And I could live
And
my
then your
life
story,
thinking,
the story of your life becomes
yes,
like the world is out to get me. I can't trust anyone, and I must
right,
lock my door 4 times, and I can never sleep well. I mean, that
right.
could be your story once you've been victimized like that.
Yeah, that could be it. Or it could be, okay, that really was awful what happened. And I'm heartbroken because I was dead. I won't like downplay that, like those emotions were there. But also, if I look back now, I would not have integrated the lessons that I took away if I still had that star in a way. Like, I wouldn't, what I mean by that is the star was a thing that represented integrity. It was a thing that represented, kindness and doing the right thing. And it was almost this like reminder, but I wouldn't have integrated it to, I don't really need that to be those things. Like, I am already those things. It's okay that I don't have it with me because they live in me, and I think that integration wouldn't have happened if this person hadn't taken it. And we wouldn't be talking right now, right? We wouldn't be sharing the
Yeah.
story even right now. So look at all the opportunities it brought to go through something so challenging, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's just a beautiful. I just had this image of like, your father is like in this star, right?
Mhm.
And the star is gone and he's like in you. Like you've just allowed
Yeah,
him to be integrated into you. Like you don't need the
for
star. Like
sure.
you are literally his star, his flesh and blood.
Oh,
Like you
that
carry
is
that.
beautiful. That is
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
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 I've lost both
And I
my
think,
parents, and as I think about sort of what I mean, more recent. Like I had them for all of my adult life, most in my
mhm.
childhood, which was a real blessing. But thinking about how do I remain connected to them and sort of honor the things that they
Yeah.
that they that they gave me.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry that happened. But
Oh,
yes, like
it happens
you
when we age.
absolutely, I know. I know. But it is something that you are not the product. You are, in a way, you're a product of all that they've instilled in you, and
Yeah.
that's what's special. Hmm.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your insights, your wisdom with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure to be here, Julie.
Elizabeth Gruebel is a marriage and family therapist. She's a professor of human development and family science at the University of Rhode Island, and we'll put a link to her TED Talk as well in the show notes. And thank you for getting uncomfy with us today. Is there a story in your life that you think might be ripe for restorying? I would love to hear it. What a fascinating concept, and really just opened up so many avenues in my mind that I'd like to explore. Let me know what you're thinking. Email uncomfy@byu.edu or find us on social media to continue the conversation. We are at uncomfy.podcast on Instagram. Uncomfy is a BYU radio podcast. Samuel Benson produces it, and the team includes Maggie Mathis and Abby Karras. Our theme music was composed by Kelsey Ney. I'm Julie Rose. Can't wait to get uncomfy with you again next week. Before I leave you, I want to recommend another show from the BYU Radio family of podcasts that I'm pretty sure you're going to love. It's called Constant Wonder, and it consistently, or should I say constantly, ranks near the top of Apple's nature podcasts in their rankings. But Constant Wonder is about more than just nature. It's about finding awe in everything around us, including our own backyards. So on the show, you'll hear guests share stories of spiritual encounters with nature, of real-life accounts of human kindness and bravery, like a doctor on a quest to bring care to the homeless. See the world with new eyes as host Marcus Smith invites us to find wonder in every corner of life. Listen to new episodes of Constant Wonder every Wednesday on the BYU Radio app or wherever you listen to podcasts.